You're listening to Chillworthy,
a podcast where two best friends discuss mysteries, murders, and anything in between for your enjoyment.
So if you're ready to hear some chilling and unsettling cases, you're in the right place. Happy listening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back and listening to our podcast, Chillworthy, with Talia and Brent.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing? How's your week been?
Fine. I went camping again.
Ooh.
So that was nice.
Good.
And, nothing besides that has really gone on this week.
Okay. It's a quiet week for me as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So the one thing, though, that I was thinking about that did happen this week was, unfortunately, I suffer from anxiety.
Right.
As probably half the people listening do.
Absolutely.
And it's insane because the odds of like what occurred to put me into this almost panic attack were ridiculous. But so it was two or three nights ago.
In the ocean.
No, I wasn't in the ocean 2 or 3 nights ago. I was like in the backyard and I had the weed whacker. And, I was trying to go through a bunch of the weeds like on the side of the garage.
I'm nervous where this is headed. I think I know.
And there's no way you know.
A critter.
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I'm doing this. And they were like, the weeds were like, I don't know how to describe. They were like stalky kind of weeds, and so they weren't very easy to just cut down with the weed whacker, but I eventually did. And so that happened, let's say like night 1. Well, morning 2, I'm like scrolling through TikTok as one does, and I just saw this random TikTok of this man saying, like the tagline was, "The one weed you should never weed whack." And I thought, like,
what are the odds?
Right, exactly. What are the odds? But I thought, you know what? Let's just watch it. Show me. So I'm laying there. I see this man is like, this weed. He's like, this man in blah, blah, blah state. I don't know what state it was. He was out weed whacking and he woke up at 2 a.m. that night, unable to breathe.
Oh, boy.
And ended up in the hospital in a coma for almost a month, all because he weed whacked this weed. Now I'm still intently listening, but they haven't shown what it is yet. Then he shows this weed, and son of a this weed looked so similar to what I was cutting down in my backyard. And he's like, "Oh yeah, this is hemlock. And it grows all over the United States."
Right.
And he said the guy, what was so bad was because the man was weed whacking, and then the oils from the stalk got up in the air and it gets into your respiratory system and really F's you up. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, these look so similar. Like, these stalky, but I mean, how many plants are green with stalks and
That's
leaves?
What I was thinking.
Know, but still. So, of course, I was getting a little panicky, but I ended up going outside a little bit later with that identifying camera app.
I was going to suggest that.
And it was not that, and like he said, one of the ways to tell if it's hemlock is if it has blotchy purple on the stem.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, well, because it's supposed to be very similar to Queen Anne's lace. Which is, like, they almost look identical, but they do have a little bit of differences, and the purple blotchiness is one. This had no purple blotchiness on it, thank God. And I forget what it even came up as, identified as, but it was very, very uncomfortable for me. I don't like that.
Bullet.
I don't like that stuff.
It's interesting you don't hear about that, though, happening more often. Not that, like, people buy homes and have these, like, automatic weed reference guides or manuals that they look at to see, like, well, don't weed whack this, son of a bitch. But at the same time, I get your concern.
So
Jarring, unexpected.
I was very uncomfortable.
Dare I say how crazy it is? Like, obviously, they're always listening to us. And if we talk about something, then it comes up as a suggestion on Google or like, the TikTok algorithm. And it's insane how that video happened to come up after you weed whacked. Don't you find that crazy?
I mean, I do, but I also wasn't talking to anybody about how I weed whacked.
That's why it's even crazier, I'm saying.
Okay.
Maybe it heard the sound. Maybe they can identify sounds now. I just think it was very serendipitous.
Yeah, well. All right. You are taking the case today.
I am. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to say that I am still reading God of the Woods.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I made a comment to somebody this week of, I kind of didn't think this through. It was so big. Like, it's a big book. And the fact that I read more than one book at one time.
Which I can't get behind at all.
I freaking love it. And I purposefully try to do different genres. So it's like, oh, what am I in the mood to read? Oh, I would like this one. Great. I have, these other two waiting. And sometimes the genres overlap, but I do try to go in different directions. But just ease of reading, I read the Kindle more typically. Mm-hmm. And the book, the printed book, I usually read less frequently, which is God of the Woods. So with how big it is, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to finish this. It'll be like winter. But I think I was being over dramatic because I have now reached the over 50% line.
Oh, okay.
The book is fantastic. Fantastic.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yes, thank you.
Truly.
But I did read one. It only took a few days. It was very light read. I like reading novels that are funny and like sarcastically funny, but about like dysfunctional families, like adult siblings coming back together for a purpose. And this one was they won the lottery. Like 3 of them, 3 out of 4, went in on a lottery ticket together and won. And it just showed how it affected all of them and like choices that they made. And it was interesting. It was different and I liked it.
Not my kind of book, but good.
No, not at all. It was not. But it was a nice, light read. So it is called Jackpot Summer by Alyssa Friedland. That's it. Okay, so for my topic, listen to this shit. I'm so excited to tell you this story. I feel like I met a celebrity yesterday. I didn't, but I might as well have.
All right.
So I have a hair appointment. I go to the hair appointment, and my friend who does my hair says to another client who's in the room, not his client. So it's like me, my friend, another client, and the person doing her hair. And we're back.
2 hairdressers, 2 people getting their hair dressed. Yes.
Right. So the other client says, have you ever heard of, and she's like, not totally remembering the last name. And she's like, let me look. Hold on. Like, it'll come to me. So she says eventually, Suzanne Lyall. And I certainly had not ever heard of it. So I was like, no. So she's telling this story. And this was when this client, we'll call her Linda. And Linda says, okay, so she worked and lived, I guess, years ago in New York. And like back in the 90s. So she says, she's talking about this case and this girl. And I forget what little bit she said. And my friend and I both go, wait, you knew her? She sure as hell did. My mouth was gaping open.
You mean she knew the missing person victim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh my God. It was insane. So I had a different topic for today, and then I got cocky, and then I was like,
we don't like that.
Right. So bear with me today.
Probably by the end, the chillers won't like that either.
I got very
But maybe you'll surprise me.
Maybe. I got very excited, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I have to do. And the fact that everything was fresh in my head. I mean, obviously, like, I had to do a ton of research because I wasn't sure. Like, this woman couldn't remember, a lot of the specifics. But she did comment on like she said, she was not close to this girl, but she worked with her for a few years, and she said she was so sweet. She's like, I remember her vividly. Like, she was such a kind person, and she's like, I still check in every few years and just check to see if there's been an update.
Very sad.
Exactly. And it was just...
I've noticed that this is a thing, even the research I've been doing. Like, you go to a Facebook group, and something that can happen, like 4 or 5 years ago, and people are still putting, like, posts up like 2 weeks ago, like, hey, did you think about this? So
right.
It's very sad, but, sort of, I don't know if you want to say inspirational, that people still...
hopeful, yes.
It's nice that they care, that they still care, I guess is what I'm saying.
And invested,
Fine, have the last word. You're right, invested.
I shall. So, Suzanne Gloria Lyall. She was born April 6th, 1978, so she was 19 years old at the time. This was taking place in 1998. So she was a student at State University of New York at Albany. So SUNY Albany. Where this connection with the woman that I met was, have you ever heard of Babbages?
No. I have no idea what that even means.
So me neither. And
I'm assuming they don't come out of a garden.
No. So
like Babbage Patch Kids.
So Babbage's was kind of the original GameStop.
Okay, I have no idea.
Well, do you know what GameStop is?
I do, but I've never been in there either.
Well, it doesn't matter.
I was going to say, have you? You don't play games.
No, but I certainly know what GameStop is. I've walked past them.
Yeah, okay.
I know what they contain.
All right, so Babbage's had video games.
Right, computer things. So, back in the 90s, whatever the hell
like
they
Roller
had.
Coaster Tycoon.
I never heard
that was
of
my
that.
bread and butter. So, yeah.
Fine.
Or
Oregon
Age of
Trail.
Mythology.
Oh.
No, you know what? You could be right. Maybe I'm thinking about 2000s.
I don't know.
Because I guess Oregon Trail would be more... I remember the first game I ever played on a computer. It was a gateway computer, so it came in the box with the cow print.
Yes.
And I remember...
All the rage.
I remember a friend of our families came over. He helped set it up because my parents had no clue about computers,
right.
And I remember the first game on there was a Dr. Seuss game. It was you would go through green eggs and ham, and you would you would click on the different characters and they would say something. That was early 90s.
Glorious memory. Well, Oregon Trail was, I don't know, I want to say around this time.
Probably. I never played that.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, I was addicted to that at home and at school. But I don't remember how old I was. So furthermore, what I have to tell you about Babbage's is Barnes & Noble purchased Babbage's.
Huh.
Exactly. And then changed, obviously, everything. Goodbye, Babbage's. Barnes & Noble, here we are.
Yeah.
Right. And, thinking back, I distinctly remember as a kid being obsessed with Walden Books. Do you remember that store?
Yeah.
And, oh my God, I loved going there. I loved getting books. And
well.
Also,
then you were in the right place. And listen, I have to tell you something I don't think you're going to like.
Oh.
I don't know, but
gosh.
Barnes & Noble is doing an entire revamp of what they're going to look like.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. So now they're going to look, instead of the way the Barnes & Noble stores look now, they're going to look like warehouses. Like very bright fluorescent lighting, very harsh, clean tones.
Not cozy anymore.
No. I saw these pictures floating around TikTok of what the new ones will look like, and then as the new ones are built, they'll look like that, and the old ones will be going through renovations to become
that.
I suppose like a sanitized warehouse of books. So, just for anyone interested. But
wow.
Please continue.
Onward and downward. I feel a little shook up with this news. So it goes. All right. So, and also I wanted to say Suzanne went by Susie. Obviously, I did not know her personally, but I'd like to call her that.
All right. Well, if that's what she went by.
That's what I'm thinking. Right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to do it. All right. So Susie worked at Babbage's. It was called the It was called the Cross Gates Mall.
All right.
Where Babbage's
in New York
located. Yes. Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yes. She left her job at Babbage's and she took the bus, like the city bus, public transportation, back to school. And the campus was referred to as the Uptown campus at her college. So my point in bringing up Babbage's, you'll see, is important, and that I'm talking about it for about 20 minutes. That I guess wasn't necessary, but Susie had very early interest in computers, and even building them from scratch, and just very interested in technology and had skills at a young age. Mm-hmm. So just quickly, a little background about Susie. So she was born in Saratoga Springs, New York, on April 6, 1978. She was the youngest of 3 children.
Okay.
They ended up moving out of Saratoga Springs into a nearby town. It was southwest of Saratoga Springs, called Ballston Spa. Her 2 older siblings described her as the darling of the family. She was very quiet. She liked writing poetry and would get very, struck with inspiration suddenly and would scurry off and write the different ideas she had for the poems that she was writing. She was also a huge fan of the musical group Rush from Canada, it said. I never heard of
Me either.
them. So she graduated from Ballston Spa High School with honors in 96, and then she first attended another SUNY school in Oneonta for a year. Then she transferred to SUNY Albany. She felt that the computer science courses that she was taking in Oneonta were not sufficiently challenging enough for her, so that's why she transferred.
Okay.
However, the transfer to Albany also brought her closer, also to her family, home, closer to home, but also to her boyfriend, Richard. So he was a fellow student, several years older than her. They did start dating when they were still in high school, but they had that common interest with the computers. That was a topic that they talked about a lot, that they just had in common and were both good at it, and I think wanted to.
They shared a passion.
Right. So she ended up having 2 jobs off campus. One was at a computer company in Troy. The other was at Babbage's.
Yes.
Okay. So Susie was in frequent contact with her parents and Richard almost daily. Her mother recalls that she spoke to her on March 1st. So March 2nd is when Susie was reported missing. But March 1st, 1998, she and her mom spoke, and she said that she distinctly remembered that Susie was complaining to her about being very low on cash at the moment and, very much looking forward to her next paycheck. Her mom offered to lend her money until that point, but Susie declined. In late February of 98, Susie's manager at Babbage's recalls that she had been super stressed about an upcoming midterm exam that she had. Not only did she have to pass it, she really needed to excel at it. She needed a very good grade. She was scheduled to take this on March 2nd. And after she took it, she also attended other classes that she had until 4 p.m. After that, she went immediately to... Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, that's all right.
After that, she went from North Campus to where she lived, the Colonial Quad dorm, then went to her job at Babbage's.
Okay.
Her manager recalls when she got there, she asked her how this exam went. She said that she felt that she had done okay, but that she was somewhat subdued. She wasn't her normal... bubbly as outgoing as she typically was.
Bothered.
Unsettled,
yes.
Perhaps, right. But did not, go into any detail, and also didn't even acknowledge that herself. The manager noticed that about her. Susie was not commenting on, I feel kind of down today.
Right.
Nothing like that. So the store closed at 9 p.m. Susie stayed until it closed. She boarded the public bus after that, as she always did, and returned around 9:20. Now, the bus driver who regularly worked that route, knew her, was familiar with her, confirmed he saw her board the bus, but could not confirm that he saw her exit the bus. And where he would have been dropping her off at the Collins Circle bus stop that was on campus was a very short walk to where her dorm was. Oh, God.
You're saying that the man remembers her getting on the bus but doesn't remember her getting off the bus.
Correct. And also said that with certainty that she was not on the bus when he reached the end of his route, which was downtown, to obviously off campus.
Was, maybe you don't know this, but was this like one of the kind of buses that have multiple exits?
That is correct.
Okay.
Good thinking. However, though, well, no, I guess not. I was going to say, wouldn't he still be aware? But how?
Well, it depends on how full the bus is. And
exactly.
I mean, the only thing I keep thinking in my head is that scene from Mrs. Doubtfire. Where she's getting on the bus and like the bus driver knows her and he's smitten with her.
Oh, yes.
And
yeah, I can't think of a direct quote. I want to drop one real bad right now, but I can't think of anything. It's something about when the dress goes up and the knees are visible.
Something like God made you.
The way God made you. Just the way God made you. Oh, God.
Anyway, but this is the type of bus I am thinking about. But even like the buses at Disney, like the what's that called? The ones that go back and forth all the time. What are not a tram, not a trolley.
Watch out for the tram, please.
What am I talking about? Well, the buses that go back and forth
like
on
a charter? No.
Charter. The buses that go back and forth on a constant basis, they have like multiple doors.
Shuttles.
Yes. They have multiple doors. So that it's easy for people to get on and off. So I guess it's not totally crazy that he, he's not thinking of keeping an eye on this woman.
No, exactly.
So,
There's
anyway,
no reason.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. Thank you for your thoughts. Mm-hmm. But you're right. He would have no reason to think anything funny was going on.
Right.
Or, that he needed to keep an eye on things. What I will say is even weirder, though, is that a friend swears that she saw Susie exit the bus at this Collins Circle bus stop and that it was approximately 9:45. Now, she should have arrived, though, at 9:20. If, history has shown us, apparently, that from getting on the bus at 9 when work would end, she would be back around 9:20. So the time is off. But no one else saw her except this friend. And there were no details. Maybe we'll get to it later on. But from my memory of looking this up, I don't recall there being any other details about that. Just that then she was not seen since. But
okay.
This friend claims she did return. So a major positive in this investigation is that Susie was reported missing the very next day. There was not like a lag in it. But major criticism is that campus police did not take this seriously either, which I'll get to.
Mm.
All right. So next morning, March 3rd, Richard, her boyfriend, who was attending a different college at that point in the Albany area, called her parents and said she had not returned to her dorm the night before and that no one could find her. So she usually called him or emailed him after returning from work. Scratch that. How the hell is she? No, I guess. Was there email in the 90s? That doesn't sound right.
Well, you've got mail.
You're right, though. You're right. True, I guess.
I think you could email. I mean, she's
okay.
not texting him.
That's true. It doesn't say that. You're right. Okay. So she usually called or emailed him when she would get home from work, and that did not happen, and he had been calling her dorm since that evening. No answer.
Like your mother when you didn't have your cell phone.
Yes.
A landline.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So her parents called the campus police to formally report her missing. And they were told that brief absences were not uncommon for college students, so they should not worry, as it is likely she would soon reappear. Direct quote.
Very dismissive.
Exactly. And the parents were saying this behavior was completely unlike her. A direct quote from her father, Susie was not a risk taker. She did not party or use alcohol or drugs. That comment by parents, I always think is a little perhaps ignorant on their part. Maybe she really didn't drink or use drugs, but she is in college. I feel like...
And you're not going to announce it to your parents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I'm not saying that perhaps like alcohol or drugs had any involvement in this occurring, but
Just making a statement that sometimes parents don't know what's happening.
Exactly, the full picture. So, but regardless, they said this behavior is not like her. Even at a minimum, her communicating with her parents and Richard every day, checking in, I just got home, like just little things that were her norm did not happen. So obviously those are red flags to them, you know?
Yeah.
I guess they sent an officer to see if she was going to show up for class, whatever her next class that was scheduled for. And lo and behold, shocker, she didn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
She did have suite mates. They confirmed too. She did not return home that night. She did not come in at all. And that they said, like, even if they had been sleeping, the keys jingling would always wake them.
Okay.
Like when she would be working at Babbage's and she would get home late. And I guess if they were in bed early, you know, during the week, that would still have woken them. And no one recalled hearing any of that. The parents contacted her bank, and she apparently used her debit card to withdraw $20 from an ATM much earlier in the day, though, at 4 p.m. at a Stewart's shop, which was a convenience store in Albany. 2 days later, which Susie's father was highly critical of, the campus police agreed that because she missed another midterm test as well as other scheduled classes, now they felt that her disappearance was not typical.
Oof.
And they called the New York State Police for assistance.
I mean, that must be one hell of a time period, knowing that your daughter is missing. Like, you know she is because it's not her behavior. And that currently, you also know the police are not actively even looking. Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
I know. And it makes me wonder, too, why the parents didn't, like, that they were only dealing with campus police, that they didn't try to go to even a local department. Not at all that I'm not faulting the parents whatsoever, but I wonder, were there words exchanged? And not to say that the campus police, like, threatened the parent and don't you dare, you know, go outside of us to try to report this.
I don't know, actually. I was going to say I doubt it, but who knows?
I doubt it, too. But true. Well, I felt like they definitely tried to throw money at the problem of their ineptitude because the school contributed towards a reward for information that the parents put out. So the total for the reward ended up being $15,000.
Wow.
And they put up flyers with Susie's picture. They posted it around campus and I guess nearby neighborhoods. So in the first 2 weeks of the investigation, the state police looked into 270 leads and searched 300 acres near Collins Circle, which was the area by the campus.
270? That's
what it says.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a lot of
maybe
things
students,
to look into.
Like, I mean, I feel like just the fact that she was living on campus opens up so much in terms of people that she was having contact with. Yeah. So they looked there was a wooded area. There was...
Nothing good happens in the woods.
I know. They looked near Rensselaer Lake in the eastern end of the Albany Pine Bush. This was all still near campus.
Okay.
But this ATM withdrawal drew particular attention. This convenience store had a security camera, but it focused on the area directly around the cashier and didn't actually show the ATM.
Of course.
So it couldn't be determined who used it at all, like anyone who was coming in, you know, for the cash withdrawals.
And you wouldn't know if she was alone or not.
Good call. Exactly. So there was a possibility where a witness had said that they saw a man. I don't even understand why this became a focus, but some man had a Nike baseball cap who came in, according to a witness, and they felt that this man, I guess, was considered to be a person of interest for a short period. I couldn't find anything else on that. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, I suppose that could have even been someone that she knew. But regardless, that kind of ended there.
Okay.
But whoever used the card had to have known, obviously, like, guessed the correct PIN to use it.
Right.
So Richard, her boyfriend, said only he and Susie knew the PIN. He supplied that information. And she always...
I'm sort of surprised he would even know that.
Well, it makes me think that she let him use the card.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just weird to me that somebody
Especially
else...
college age.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Good call.
And they're not even at the same school. What is he... Unless they had double cards or something. But they're not going to be sharing a bank account at that age, one would assume.
I know. Good point. No, they mustn't have. So her parents also said that whenever she would go to the ATM, she only ever withdrew $20 at a time. But that is the money that was taken out at 4 p.m.
Okay.
And she wasn't...
$20 went further back then, I'll tell you that. I'm just saying, it did.
Oh my God. Well, but I'm also... Why do we exactly care about the ATM? Because that was at 4 o'clock and she would have been seen after. Like, I don't know why we care about this 4 p.m. ATM withdrawal.
Well, isn't it just establishing a timeline?
I guess, yeah.
Because, I mean...
What's she getting the 20 out for?
That's... Well, yeah, but that's just another thing to say... You know, look, like, we have reason to believe that this was her because not only did she use her code, but she also got the exact amount of money she always gets out. Like, so she, because, like, we can't, nothing against the bus driver or the friend, but we can't necessarily prove that they were completely correct when they said that
Good
they
call.
saw her. But, like, I just
Good
feel like
call.
they're trying to establish something concrete that says at 4 o'clock she was here, or we at least have a lot of, you know, evidence or, you know, to suspect that. So,
Right.
I don't know.
Right. So I just saw, apparently this man in the Nike baseball cap was a man of interest because a witness allegedly connected that he used the ATM, which I assume this witness is probably the person who worked there, remembered around the time that Susie used the ATM, this man also used it, and somehow they thought that made him a person of interest. But
Well, geez, that's pretty loose. Loosey-goosey. I hope there was a little more to that, but...
Turkey-lurkey. Well, he ended up being ruled out, so all was well with him.
Good.
The poor
I mean,
soul.
hopefully it was good. I don't know.
I know. Richard had an alibi, which I believe I get to in more detail because I have thoughts that I wanted to share on that. I sort of, and who knows if Richard had anything to do with it, but I sort of don't think he did. And something he said and how he reacted at one point caused some people to think that he was someone to be looked at, like suspicious of.
Mm-hmm.
Cautious.
Right.
And I feel like he didn't do anything that crazy, so I'll get to that. The other thing, so Susie's parents felt that the fact that she went to this ATM at Stewart's, the convenience store, where this was located is not a part of the city that Susie frequented, which, I mean, you can break routine, but still you also, I think, want to look at anything that sort of seems amiss.
Right.
And if
That
she was
seems
like a
out of
creature of
place.
habit. Exactly.
Especially on a day she disappeared. I mean, yeah.
I forgot about this. So the records showed that Susie's card was actually used to make 2 withdrawals at 2 different ATMs the day she disappeared. One had been in the morning at a machine near campus, near the bus stop, and then the other was at the mall at the time. Like I said, she should have been at work. Apparently, she would have just been arriving there for work. Both had been the $20, though, each, which is what she always took out when she did make a withdrawal.
Okay.
So that seemed likely that she, in fact, was the one who made them. So police started considering the possibility that maybe she never even returned to campus that night at all, even though the classmate claims that she saw Susie get off the bus. And where this bus stop was, I think I already said this earlier, was a very short walk from her dorm. Yeah. Then the investigators were even contemplating, like, what if she didn't even get on the bus at all? What if that bus driver was mistaken? I mean, like you were saying earlier, depending on how packed it was, you think you saw someone. He did know her. It was like someone who he did see regularly that he knew who Susie was. But did she actually even get on?
Well, right, just because he knows her, and if she has a very normal schedule, he's going to, like, your brain could think, yeah, of course, it was Wednesday. Like, of course she got on.
Exactly.
Precisely.
2 months after she was reported missing, her name tag was found 90 feet away from the bus stop in the parking lot, opposite from the direction that she would have been walking if returning to her dorm. But they weren't able to determine how long it was there, and there was also no forensic evidence on it that could be gathered by the police. So,
wow.
Could have been dropped innocently enough, could have, who knows, could have been something, but ended up not being anything. Another tidbit, so a coworker of Susie's at Babbage's had told investigators about a month before her disappearance Susie sort of casually mentioned that she was being stalked by someone.
Just casually.
Exactly, right. Which is
That's not up your alley.
That is wild.
That's not your style.
Just dropping it in conversation. She didn't know who this person was, and the coworker commented that when Susie told her this, she did not appear to be afraid at all of this possibility. Just calm as can be.
Jeez.
Which, is that being reported accurately? I mean, it's not good. If you're being stalked, even if you're like, I don't know who it is, seems innocent enough. And in the 90s, maybe that is the attitude.
I don't know. I mean, obviously everybody reacts differently. So, maybe she was in denial that it was anything serious at all.
Right. So the police have never been able to entirely rule out Richard as a suspect. According to the mom, Susie tried to end this relationship multiple times.
Oh, jeez.
I know. That immediately gives you not a great vibe. People don't like to be told no.
I mean, yeah, that doesn't... Richard has just raised in my level of...
I know.
Was this good or bad?
Well, so she tries to break it off. Apparently, according to her mom, he would become super emotional, would beg her to stay with him, and Susie would. One interesting comment he made to the police after Susie disappeared, he kept referring to her as his fiance, and no one was aware of any proposal or anything. So
no.
It was like a development that somehow no one knew about.
Something doesn't sound right there, man.
Right. And the parents were saying, like, we literally talked to her almost daily. She was calling, she was emailing, she was giving us updates on her life. Why would she not have told us that?
Did he give her a ring?
I do not believe there was a ring, no.
Because I was going to say, like, okay, well then where's the receipt for the ring?
Good point.
Thank you.
Yes. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have a ring.
I do agree. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but somebody making it a point to say we're engaged or, this is my fiance, like, and with the idea that he was so quote unquote emotional makes me feel like if he was going to do that, he was going to damn well put something on that woman's finger to make sure that the world knew that she was his.
Right. Claimed property.
Right.
Which is
the
terrible.
way that you're talking about
him
and his personality and his emotional state. So
furthermore, this mother sounds like she is on it. Like, I don't think I mentioned this yet, but the father has since passed away. But the mom, I found a picture of her. I did not send it to you for you to look at, but
I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
She just looks like such a dear, sweet woman. She's holding a picture of Susie in a frame, and she's like sitting, I don't know if it was Susie's bedroom or where she's sitting in the house for this article, but this woman has not given up, which I will also get to. Both of the parents, the strides they took to basically help and protect other people down the road. I'll get to that. Before I forget, so the mother also recalled 2 weeks prior to Susie disappearing, she and Susie were out on a trip to see Susie's grandmother.
Okay.
As they're in the car, Susie asked if they could stop at Richard's on their way, that she had a Valentine's Day card that she wanted to drop off for him. Mm-hmm. So nothing unusual happened on this little road trip. They did drop it off. Everything was fine. Susie was acting normal. She didn't tell her mother that there was any issue with Richard or anything like that. But the mother always wondered, was that not a Valentine's Day card, and was she dropping off like a Dear John letter to him and ended the relationship and just didn't tell her mother that? And that's what fired him up right before, because it was 2 weeks before she disappeared. So,
well, I guess they never found the card.
Correct.
Okay.
And he certainly made no mention of a breakup. He's freaking calling her his fiance.
Right. Well, I was thinking, I mean, if the police, if he was a person of interest and they searched the house, like, if it was only 2 weeks and this man is as enamored as you say, is he really going to throw that card out?
True.
Now, if it was a Dear John letter, he probably would rip it up and throw it out.
Or would he fixate on it, have it up on the wall throwing darts at it? Who knows?
I'm going to say throw it out, but you're right. Who knows?
Well, this mother, again, with how kind of leaving no stone unturned, it also made her wonder, which the police never found any evidence of what I'm about to say next, but she wondered if she had tried to break up with Richard, say Richard is actually innocent in this, was Susie involved with someone else? Is that why she was trying to break up with Richard? There was actually a new person on the scene.
A love triangle.
Right. And that's potentially who then did this to Susie. But like I said, the police found no evidence that, you know, to corroborate that. Now, what I was saying earlier about Richard and how, like, I feel a little torn on this. So his alibi, you know, I had said that he had an alibi at the time of her disappearance. His alibi was that he was playing video games with a friend.
Okay.
Doesn't sound very strong to me. I mean, they could literally, and the friend confirmed it. Well, great. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's fine. Yes, it's an alibi, but like there is no way to prove that.
Well, okay, but I mean, you told me in the beginning he loved video games.
I did tell you that. You're correct.
And so, I mean, I'm not trying to say he's innocent or guilty,
well,
but
we don't know.
Yeah, just because. I mean, what he was supposed to be somewhere at a time-stamped location in a camera.
You're
I mean,
not thinking of that when you're not doing anything fishy.
Of course. I mean, that would be like us saying, "Well, yeah, Talia was with me. We were recording a podcast." And then someone else on a podcast goes, "Okay, yeah, Talia was with him, huh?"
Except I'm sure sitting here today, you and me real time have told multiple people we were going to do this today. Am I wrong? That helps corroborate a story, an alibi. It's not just, oh yeah, Talia was here. Yeah, Talia was here. Okay, does anyone show me? You know what I'm saying?
I guess. I guess we'll agree to disagree there, that I don't find it as fishy as you do.
Well, what I'm about to say next, I'm going to defend Richard because he was criticized because after his initial conversation with the police, when they initially questioned him, they asked him if he would take a lie detector test, and he refused. Then said he would only cooperate with another interview with a lawyer present. And, he also, again, I don't think there's anything amiss with this. He would not answer any questions. Like, when they would revisit this case over the years and, like, there would be news segments, he would refuse all interviews with the media.
Okay.
I don't think that means he's guilty. Lie detector tests are crap. They're inadmissible.
Right.
They're not trustworthy. I think they're garbage the majority of the time. And I was going to say these days, but that was back in the 90s. But I mean, to not participate in questioning by the police or quote unquote cooperate with them unless you have a lawyer, like, you do have to protect yourself.
Well,
even
yeah,
if
I don't
innocent.
think I don't think any of that is crazy. Yeah.
Right. So that's all I got on Richard. So over the years, 75 psychics were contacting the family with tips. And many of them involved water, suggesting that Susie is deceased and her body is submerged somewhere.
Psychics love water. They do. From what I hear.
Right. So the mom, well, let me go back. The father did pass away.
Okay.
In 2015. But Susie's mom has continued, obviously, with her activism and, the search. But she dismisses these claims, and she just feels that there probably isn't anything really, like, there's no truth to it. However, she did admit that she gets a very odd feeling. It's pretty persistent anytime she drives over the Crescent Bridge, which is apparently along Route 9 between Albany and Ballston Spa. So in June of 2016, I guess this private firm used high-tech mapping equipment to scour the river bottom there under the bridge, and nothing significant was
Well, good
found.
for them for looking.
I agree. And it's not funny at all, but in 2018, a direct quote from a New York State Police senior investigator, John Camp, said, quote, "We believe it's a homicide. Is there a chance she moved away? It's a possibility, but the reality is she's probably been a victim of a homicide."
Moved away.
That she got on a bus and left.
That's insane.
It's just ridiculous. But all of that to say, the case is still unsolved. But Prior to the father passing away, just a year after Susie's disappearance, the parents began lobbying for changes in New York to address what they saw as, major shortcomings of this investigation, and possibly if things could have gone differently, especially in those early days.
The critical hours.
Exactly. That something maybe could have been done, or they could, at a minimum, have found their deceased daughter's body. So they reached out to state legislators, and those legislators sponsored a bill formerly known as the Campus Safety Act, but is also referred to as Suzanne's Law. So this requires that colleges and universities in the state of New York have to have detailed plans for the investigation of violent felonies and missing person cases that occur on a campus, as well as reporting any missing person case as promptly to the state of New York, like the state police.
Okay.
This did pass, and it passed on her 21st birthday,
Aww.
on Susie's 21st birthday. It was signed into law, with institutions of higher learning required to be in compliance with this by the beginning of the year 2000. The Center for Hope was also established, which is an organization that Susie's parents founded. So in addition to disseminating information about missing persons and educating law enforcement about its increased responsibilities under this law, it provides support to family members who have missing children, or I should say adults. Susie's parents were present when President George W. Bush signed Suzanne's Law, which raised the age at which local police must inform the National Crime Information Center of a missing person from ages 18 to 21.
Oh, well, that's good.
Absolutely. In 2003, President George W. Bush signed into law the PROTECT Act of 2003, which allows police departments to report those cases to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children as well. And then they can receive additional services like flyer and poster creation, as well as age progression technology that can be applied to the images of the missing people.
Oh, okay.
The parents continued their lobbying efforts, and then in 2008, that resulted in another federal law that was named for their daughter, which required that colleges and universities have in place policies that clearly delineate the role of campus, local, and state police agencies in investigating a violent crime or disappearance on campus in order to reduce the sort of confusion and delays that Susie's parents believed had hindered the investigation with her disappearance during the days immediately afterward.
Okay.
And that's all I have.
Well, so then besides Richard, there were basically no other kinds of players that they were thinking of.
Everyone that they looked into, ended up being a dead end, and they were able to be cleared. And, I was going to say it's like she got on the bus and never returned, but did she really even get on the bus? I mean, so many questions. Was it somebody that she knew? Was it not somebody she knew? I don't feel that any of what we heard about her with her history or her personality or anything seemed as though, she maybe decided to just leave and start over somewhere else. And
well, but wouldn't it be a huge coincidence if she never got on the bus that then her name tag was at the bus stop?
But what if it fell off before she even got to work that day?
But I thought you said it was the opposite direction that she would be walking.
I did say something about that.
You did.
I did.
So she wouldn't have walked, 90 feet past the bus stop, drop her name tag and turn around and then walk 90 feet back.
Absolutely.
From my assumption.
Well, she probably didn't know she dropped it. Did she see somebody who was yelling to her, trying to get her attention, and they stopped for a chat? We don't know.
You're right. We don't, but yeah.
But I get what you're saying.
Well, thank you for telling your story.
Thank you for listening.
For raising our awareness to this.
I love in this particular case just how much involvement the parents had. Of course, not that it has seemed to help Susie, but certainly other families, other victims, other missing person cases. I mean, I think their efforts are valiant.
Well, to make a law that stops the idea of like people fighting over like jurisdiction and whose job is this, and because it's like then if you don't have that, two entities can drop the ball because they can say, well, that was your job. Like this is like, here's the clear, somebody goes missing, here's what you have to do, you have to do, you have to do.
Agreed.
So
keep it nice and organized. Nothing
Right.
falls through the cracks.
nice and tight.
All right.
So, all right. Well, I think that's it then for today's episode. I mean,
It sure is.
all right.
And as always, stay safe.
And stay chill.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. You've just listened to Chillworthy. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode. While we strive to keep our discussions engaging and lighthearted, we also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the real lives and events that are at the heart of these stories.
We try to approach each topic with a sense of curiosity and respect, fully aware of the impact these events have had on the individuals and their loved ones. Our goal is to honor their memories by keeping their stories alive and shedding light on the mysteries that surround them.
If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, and don't forget to join us on the next episode of Chillworthy.